Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. For some reason, you can't see my video, so I apologize about that. I will get that figured out for next time. Um, but I did want to say welcome. Welcome to Reclaim. I'm so excited to have you join me today and this week. There's so much stuff to share, and I'm very, very excited to have you join me today. So, since we are in the Facebook group, make sure to introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, what you're wanting to create this week. What is it that you are looking to achieve from this week? Are you looking to create a little more peace, a little more calm? Are you looking to gain some tools to regulate your nervous system? What is it that you are wanting out of this week? So let's go ahead and jump on in. So, okay, this training is for you. This week is for you if you find yourself getting looped into the negative mental spirals, the anxious thoughts, the overwhelm, in constant doing mode, longing for a long break that you never get. Also, this is a great time for a great course for you too. If you have a big dream that you want to accomplish and bring to the world, but it feels like there's just so much stuff that's been going on. It's everything seems like it's just wearing you out, wearing you down, running you ragged. And I can understand too, wanting to create some calm and some peace amongst the chaos and the craziness of oftentimes having kids, as well as, trying to figure out, how do you do the other things in your day. And on top of that too, I think especially inside of motherhood specifically, not only can it just be a lot, but also it can feel a lot of the times like we kind of lose ourselves inside of motherhood. A very fun metaphor that I really like to use or to share is that flamingos oftentimes lose their color because for science biology purposes, they're basically giving them as much of their nutrition as possible. So they lose some of their color. But I think also it can feel like that for us, especially in those early years of having kids, but even still later on in when we're raising kids, and even as the kids transition out of the house and we're now figuring out what this next stage of life looks like for us, it can feel a little bit like we've sort of lost ourselves, or we're in a reinvention of who we are again. And so this kind of course, this training can be really helpful for those times. So feel free to come back to this at any time. You'll have access to it. So I'll keep it open for you. So anyway, if you're looking to gain your color back, if you're looking to learn who you are now, this is really a great time for that. Also, if you are finding that you have joint pain or migraines or some type of chronic symptom or disease or illness that you've been trying to figure out how to fix that or how to heal it, but you've tried a lot of the different things, like a lot of the different supplements, a lot of the different, protocols and nutrition and all of those things, which are all very helpful and useful. But one of the things that can be a very big root cause of chronic conditions is a dysregulated nervous system, as well as a uh, uh, if we have any sort of imbalance with our emotions, emotional repression, or ignoring our emotions, any of those can require some healing around that. So that's what this week is specifically going to be about. And also, if you want to learn tools to regulate your nervous system to manage stress better and know how to get to your nervous system out of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. Also, if you are someone who feels like you're getting overwhelmed and or overstimulated a lot, whether maybe you're the lack of sleep from having a kiddo, maybe you're in those like first few months of postpartum or in that first year or two, if you're now entering into the toddler tantrums, or if you've got an older kid that's around any age between like from 4 to 10, or if we've got teenagers or preteens and they know how to push your buttons, the either the lack of sleep, the toddler tantrums, or the teenage years, as they're growing up, they're whining, they're all of the different things that kids can do, behaviors that can be very, very triggering. I'm going to show you how we can identify what those triggers are, and then how you can start to move yourself through those. And This is something we do in my larger courses like Mindset for Motherhood and even inside of my Worthy Breakthrough course. These are all things that we dig even deeper into so you can really get to the root of them. But I'm going to show you how you can get started on that here today, inside of or this week, so that you have those tools to be able to do this for yourself and do this on your own and start regulating your nervous system. So hopefully, if you fit into one of those categories, you are excited and ready to go. The thing is that a while ago, I used to teach a lot of courses that were a lot of information and education. And what I've realized over time is that information is great, and I'm like someone that I mean, I'm someone that is I love to learn. I love to learn. But one of the things that I realized was that I could know all of the things, but if I wasn't actually integrating it and embodying it, then it literally meant nothing. I had all of this knowledge about how to like heal my migraines and how to heal my endometriosis and how to just yeah, how to heal all of that. But I was missing a very key piece, which was this nervous system regulation, healing, emotional repression, healing piece that I didn't realize how critical and important that was going to be in that process. And that is ultimately what helped me to heal my overwhelm and my burnout and create a whole lot more space, which I'm going to tell you my story tomorrow about why I created this and why this is so important. Um, but this is the key here is that I want to make sure that by the end of this week, you feel like you have started to shift into embodying it and into integrating some of the things, and that you've really started to feel the actual change. So, some really key ways to be successful going through this week is to number one, show up, make sure to come to the calls, or if you're you can also leave comments. If you're watching live, say hello, but you can leave comments and I'll be able to see them here. Also, yeah, if you're watching this on the replay, make sure to comment and say hello and let me know that you're watching it, and make sure you're showing up. And then also make sure to do the tasking. Now, some of it may take you a little bit of time to do the tasking, especially if you've got some things going on. So that's totally okay. But one of the things we definitely want to make sure we do is we take action, and we take action quickly, and we implement and do the things, because that's how we're ultimately going to get the results that we want. And that's the part I can't do. I can give you all of the things and the tools, but you're the one that needs to do the work, right? So let's make sure that we're showing up and actually doing the things. Okay, so here's where we are headed. This week, you are going to learn tools to reset your nervous system anytime you want or need to. I'm going to teach you how to create a mindset that is flexible, adaptable, and resilient. And I'm going to give you the starting foundation for how to do this. We're going to talk about how you can heal burnout and get through the layers of survival mode so that you can really ultimately be in a place where you feel like you are thriving. We're also going to bring awareness to and start addressing triggers, because this is one of the very key pieces to getting you out of burnout, out of overwhelm, and really being able to create that calm inside of your nervous system. We got to know what it is, right, that we're working with. And then I'm going to teach you how to nourish your nervous system. We're going to talk a lot about that tomorrow from like nutrition standpoint. We're going to talk about the vagus nerve. And then we're also going to learn how to regulate your nervous system. And we're going to start the process of learning how to process your emotions. I'm going to give you some tools to be able to do that, where you can do that on your own without someone there to, help you along. But we'll also talk about ways that you can dig deeper into this as well, so you can create more space in your nervous system. It's going to be a powerful week. So I hope you are ready to go and excited. So if you're new here, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with who I am Dr. K. I'm Dr. Kirsten Lauritsen. I have many different degrees. I have about 5 different degrees and 2 upper graduate school level. I did start out with my Doctor of Chiropractic, with a bachelor's in psychology and neuroscience, and then I also expanded into I have a master's in human nutrition and functional medicine. So all of these, like, especially from that perspective, have given me a very different look at how the body functions. And I really do believe that that foundation is what helps me really help my patients and my clients is that I take a very, I want to look and see how can we help your body be able to restore balance and heal because that's what it wants to do. That is what your body wants to do, and I truly believe that when we remove that interference, the body will do it. So from the start, I've always been looking at how can we how can we do that? And so that started with chiropractic, and then I learned about functional medicine, and I went and got my master's in nutrition because I also know too that a foundational lifestyle that is healthy is critical, right, for the success that we want or having what we want. But then also, I realized as I was working with a lot of functional medicine clients, and even with myself, I was doing, and my clients were doing all of the things. They were taking the supplements. They were getting better, right? They were getting better. They were doing their nutrition. They were getting the exercise they needed. All of those things, but they still weren't getting like 100% better. And what I realized was that what was really needed was a what was really needed was something else, was something deeper. And what I realized I needed and what other people needed was an ability to be able to heal, to be able to get deeper into the root of what was causing this nervous system dysregulation and what was at the root of the repressing emotions, the ignoring emotions, or the lack of tools and knowledge of how to process their emotions that was then leading to this emotional dysregulation as well. And the cycle is just like going over and over and over again with anxiety and depression and stress and all of these patterns that my clients and I were like was experiencing. So that's when I realized there was something more that I needed to look into. And that's when I found neurolinguistic programming, not for the sense of speaking in some of the terms of what you all may be familiar with as far as that goes, but what I use it for is we work on your mindset and we work on the subconscious reprogramming. So we are looking at rewiring the brain and we are looking at getting to, we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but how your body has stored stress, how it has stored these negative emotions, and how these patterns of how you think influences not just what we experience in the physical body, but also what we experience outward in our lives too. I was just having a conversation this weekend with a friend of mine who went through my Mindset for Motherhood course, and one of the things that she said was that it was just so wild how after going through the course, she was like, it's not just me that's changed, but like how I interact with in my relationship with my husband has changed, and my relationship with my kids has changed, and even my relationship with like my parents has changed. And I was, explaining to her that when we change the way we think, we don't feed into some of those patterns anymore. So then our relationships in our life literally starts to change for the better for what we want it to look like, because we're no longer engaging with and feeding into those same patterns and those same cycles, which is where our behaviors and thoughts and patterns used to be. So that is literally, and if you're like, okay, I've heard about mindset, I've heard about subconscious reprogramming, but I don't know. I don't know yet. There's a lot of science and a lot of research, and this is all based on really neuroscience and what they've found over I mean, the last couple, it's been decades, right? Where we are seeing how the brain is able to rewire, how it is plastic. It's neuroplasticity is how the brain can rewire. And another example of this would be, so I just became a mom, so this is really fresh for me. But one of the things that is what happens with mothers is when they get pregnant, or even right as they are trying to conceive, the brain is already starting to change. It's starting to rewire, and then as you go through pregnancy and then become a mom, with mixed with hormones and a whole lot of other things, your brain is literally rewiring to be able to take care of your kiddo. because we want to make sure that we keep them alive, right? And when you think about how hard those first several months are, if we didn't have that brain rewiring, if we didn't have those hormones to help us be able to prioritize taking care of our kid, the lack of sleep and all of the things, like you wouldn't do it because it would be just, it's because it can be very, 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 very hard, right? So there are many examples in life where this shows up, where brain rewiring shows up. And what we can do is we can leverage that and we can use it to create what we do want and help us get into a place where our body can heal, where our body can rest, where we can create more calm. We can get out of that like overwhelm and use some of these tools to really be in a place where we feel grounded, we feel centered and supported. So if this is just like, if you're like, I am here for this, like make sure to drop a comment because I would love to hear your, if this is like, if you're in it. So I just was also wanted to say for a little bit of a disclaimer before we really jump in. This course really has been created to provide information around mindset and programs and services, but if it's not medical advice, and if you find along the way that you are needing some sort of medical advice, then please make sure to go and find the right person for you for that, because I am a doctor, but I am not your doctor. So before you do anything and make any changes, this is the disclaimer to make sure that you talk with your doctor. Okay, so we're just briefly going to touch on this, and then because this is going to set up the foundation for where we are headed. So I was just talking about your brain and your wiring, right? Your neural network. So when we start to really break it down to like how humans do what we do, it's really all thought patterns. That's it. Thought patterns. So and this is the thing, it's simple, but addressing some of this stuff isn't always easy, right? It's not always easy because your brain wants to go to the things that it knows. But when we want to create something different, sometimes it can be so challenging because we are headed up against things that were hard potentially in our past, that were maybe painful in our past, and that we've held on to for so long that it can feel a little uneasy to make some of these changes and make some of these shifts. The thing is, though, is that when you do the work, it can become very simple and it can really create a whole lot more ease in your life. So, and then I say that it can create more ease in your life. And even for some people, they start to reject that too, because they're like, how can it be easy? Or how can I actually have more ease? Because it is so hard right now. And it can feel so foreign and so just out of it can feel foreign for sure. But I'm going to show you how we can start to help your system get into a little bit of rest. And then you can stack from there a little bit at a time as you have the capacity to do that. Okay, so the other thing to keep in mind here too is every single cell is bathed in your hormones and neurotransmitters. So when we think something, it can then start to create a physical change in the body. So what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes if you're not driving right now. I want you to close your eyes if you can. And I want you to think about a time when you were totally anxious. You were really worried about something, really, really worried about something. And I want you to pull that up in your mind. And I want you to see what you feel in your body. What do you feel in your body? That anxiousness, you can likely start to feel like maybe a tightness in your chest or like butterflies in your stomach, or maybe you feel tightness or tension in your shoulders or in your jaw. Every single cell in your body right now is responding to that anxious feeling. Now, I want you to think of something happy. I want you to think of a time or a place or a thing that makes you so happy, and feel as everything in your body starts to shift. Maybe it feels lighter. Maybe you're starting to notice little tears in your eyes, starting to notice like a flutter. This is how you can go ahead and open your eyes. This is how our hormones and our neurotransmitters can affect what's going on in our physical body. So when we don't have anywhere to put those emotions that we feel and we repress them and we don't process them, then they can get stored in the body and then they can start to create physical manifestations, which can look like chronic conditions, diseases, illnesses, things like that, pain, injuries. And then taking this a step further, not only do we have our emotions and our physical body and our mental body as far as our thoughts go and our beliefs, our patterns, and all of that, but also we have an energy and emotional field that are all connected. So your energy, and this is actually taking this even a little bit of a step further, which is that when we have our beliefs on board and when we have our energy, our emotions on board, it starts to shift our energy field. Have you ever noticed when you walk into a room and two people have been fighting? You know what I'm talking about? And you don't even have to know that they've been fighting, but like you walk in and you're like, "Ugh, something's off here." Two people are very unhappy. Something is very, very off. That is you sensing the shift in energy in that room. So we also have and hold our energy fields with our emotions play a big role in that, as well as our thoughts and our belief patterns. So what happens is essentially when you have these when you have a disruption, we hold that energy. And this is also what can you can have done therapy where you've worked on some trauma or some past, difficult, challenging times in your past. But if we didn't actually get the beliefs and the thought patterns and the emotions to shift along with it, then we can still often hold like a remnant um of the like conditions or the patterns, and we need to be able to move through those and relearn and rewire them so that then we can create what we want, and that can be in health, that can also be with our kiddos, just in life in general, what you want. And we also have filters. Okay, so hopefully you're still with me. This is kind of like the nitty gritty stuff, but we're setting up the foundation for where we're headed. So we also have filters. Filters are essentially when you know how, like, if you have a car that you want, when you finally decide a new car that you want, or maybe like a pair of shoes that you want, and then all of a sudden, once you've decided that you want them, you see them everywhere. This is how we start telling our brain what we want to focus on. So this week, it's going to be very important that we focus on what we do want to create. And that's going to be part of your homework for today, which is setting an intention for where you want to go. Um, Oh, I'm seeing that there might be an issue with the stream quality. If you all are watching, can you let me know um, if it's really hard to see? I don't actually know how to change that, but hopefully, I'm also recording this here on Zoom, so I will also post the Zoom link as well, so hopefully that'll be better quality if this is just not working very well. Okay, well, let's keep moving. So, I was talking about filters, so we do wanna focus on where we wanna go. We wanna focus on where we're headed, and we want to focus on what we want to create. So that's going to be part of your homework for this week, is to set an intention. And the thing is what we want to do is we want to create votes for ourself and for our brain of what we want. So this is important to take action. And I want you to drop in the Facebook group what you want to create, because you are literally telling your brain, this is what I want, and this is the direction I want to head. So when it comes to patterns and habit changes, change happens when we identify a pattern and bring awareness to it, when we interrupt the pattern and then adjust to what we do want, and then 3 is when we change the filter so the brain knows to look for something else. And I'm going to show you how to do all of that this week. Okay, so a couple of things really quickly before we start in on what is the nervous system. Taking personal responsibility for your part in how you approach your circumstances and your life is key. So when we are, this is really about your perspective. So I want you to think about how your emotions are yours, and then other people's emotions are theirs. So I want you to think about maybe like a time where if three people were in the room and one person said something, one person like didn't even react, didn't even phase them, but another person it did. And maybe they got their feelings hurt, or maybe they got really angry about it, or maybe they got like really they started to feel really guilty or embarrassed. That is how each person has their own response to different things, because and what that is an example of is one person had a trigger. That one thing that was said triggered that person to feel a certain way. And then that is where we can start to say, if we're the ones that are getting triggered, we can start to say, okay, what is this here for me to learn? This is something that has not been processed or integrated yet. So, what do I need to learn here? And I'm going to show you how we do that. But the key is that what we want to do is make sure that we are taking responsibility for how we are showing up and how we are presenting and what we are bringing to the table, and what our own taking responsibility for our own part. So I like to think of like a circle that you draw like around yourself, and you're responsible for what's inside of that circle, not other people, but what's inside of that circle. Another really key mindset shift that can be really helpful here is that life in and of itself is just happening. What ultimately happens is it's how we respond to our circumstances, and those are all based on our triggers, our beliefs, and our subconscious mind, what's stored there. This is how we can really shift from like the victim mindset of life is happening to me to either one. Life is happening for you, which some people like that one and really do well with that one. Or life is happening or has dealt you some really crappy cards. So what are you deciding to do with it? How are you deciding to move forward from it? Because I'm not going to sit here and say that some of the really, really awful things that happened to people was just for them for whatever reason. I'm not sitting here to say that. But what I am saying is that we do have a choice to choose how we want to move forward from the things that do happen. And that is what I say is taking responsibility for ourselves and for our experience. How are we going to move forward from that thing? Do we need to get, professional help? Do we need it to heal? What do we need to do in order to move forward? And this is how we can change how we are responding to our circumstances. So when it comes to creating the life and the motherhood that you want, the key to start asking is what beliefs and what emotions, what feelings are blocking you from really calling in your highest desires? What do you want to create? If you were to dream so, so big, what is it that you would want to create? So I created this course because I wanted, and this specific training for nervous system dysregulation, because I wanted to help moms and women be able to heal their nervous systems. I wanted to help them be able to heal their bodies and create the life that they want. I want to see women thriving. I want to see them doing their wildest dreams. But what I feel like is happening right now is not that. And it hasn't been for a long time. One of the things I read was that in 2023, 49% of moms reported being burned out. I also experienced in pregnancy, I'm going to talk about this a little bit in my story tomorrow, that um so many moms were and are looping in negative mindsets around motherhood, around their life in general. And I had my own. I'll talk about this tomorrow. I had my own, and it was part my own fears, my own beliefs. They were absolutely holding me back from number one, becoming a mom, but also from doing really what I wanted to do with my life and to have and I was really stuck in burnout and overwhelm. So what I did was I set out to create tools to be able to help and to learn and then create tools to be able to help women be able to not live in burnout. Like, let's stop and let's get to the root and let's end this cycle. Because what's interesting is if you've been burned out or overwhelmed in one place, then it often follows you to another because it's your own patterns. It's not necessarily the job or whatever, the kids or anything else. So a couple of things I want you to pay attention to is number one, stay open. If you feel like if you find yourself saying like I've already learned this or this doesn't apply to me because I'm already past that stage of life or motherhood or whatever, or I'm not there yet, I want you to take a step back and say, how can I learn from this? What is there here for me to learn? Is there something here for me to learn? How can I hear this again and maybe in a different way that will help me into this next time? And also, I can't do the work for you. So, when are you going to watch these calls? What are the intentions that you're going to set? They are so, so powerful. And how you are approaching what you want is what you're telling your brain to focus on. So, yeah, and personally, I've installed a belief that everything that I sign up for, that I do, that I invest in, I get something out of, whether it's something I don't want, whether it's something I do want. Either way, I always get something out of the courses and the trainings that I sign up for. So this is the last piece is take what you want and leave the rest. Take what you need, leave the rest. If there's things in here that aren't for you, that's totally fine. Just don't uh those things may be there for somebody else. Just take what you need and then you can always revisit and come back at another time. So this course is not this training here, over the next 5 days is not a replacement for therapy, medical diagnosis, or treatment. Okay. If big stuff comes up during this series and during this week, then I want you to please reach out to the appropriate practitioner or resource. And this is also not private coaching or group coaching. There is my Mindset for Motherhood group coaching is coming up. Our next round is coming up in June. So if you are interested in that at any time throughout this week, please reach out. I have a special thing for all of you here, a special offer. So if that is something that you would like to learn more about, just reach out to me. And I will talk a little bit about that at the end. But if you're also interested in private coaching, you can reach out to me as well. Okay, so into the nitty-gritty. So your nervous system is basically made up of your autonomic nervous system is made up of two parts, your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. Your sympathetic nervous system is in charge. This is when cortisol goes up, when we face some sort of stress, and it is designed to help you survive. That is its primary goal. So if you are like facing the lion, it is designed to help you either decide to fight, to run away, or to freeze, which isn't the best option if we're facing a lion. But right in these days, sometimes we experience a freezing response. So this is where we feel stuck. This is where we feel avoidant. This is where we feel a lot of fear. And then we just sort of like feel paralyzed, like we can't move forward. Or fawn, which is where we will try to please everyone to avoid conflict. That is a sympathetic nervous system response. If you live in that space, your nervous system is dysregulated. If you are constantly feeling like you're in people pleasing, perfectionism, avoidance, if you are constantly feeling like you want to run away from something, or you're angry a lot and you want to fight things out, that's a stress sympathetic nervous system response. Alternatively, there's the parasympathetic nervous system, where a lot of people don't live enough of their lives. And here's the thing, this is where your rest, your digest, your healing, your creative juices start to flow and are co-create and procreate. If you have low libido, parasympathetic nervous system is where you want to be. The digestive system, it's essentially what happens here is like when your body goes into fight or flight, into the sympathetic nervous system, what ends up happening is your brain sends all of your blood to your muscles. It doesn't send it to your gut. It doesn't really send it very well to your brain. It sends it all to your muscles, pretty much. So when we have like bloating in the gut, when we have constipation in the gut, when we have like that anxious gut, or we have any sort of signs that our digestive system is maybe not assimilating nutrients very well. Maybe we're not digesting our food and bringing those nutrients in very well. That can be a really big sign that even if you're taking all of the great supplements and all of those things and really good nutrition and you're exercising and all of that, you're sleeping well. If your nervous system is not allowing for that blood to go to your gut to be able to digest and bring in that food, we we're not going to be able to heal that. We're not. Okay. So this is where knowing your nervous system and where you are in a lot of the time is so key. If you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are feeling burned out, if you are feeling overstimulated, you're probably living in this sympathetic nervous system. Okay. So then there's another piece here that we also want to pay attention to because you also have a few different nervous system responses with your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve runs from your gut to your brain and it runs on either side of your neck, right underneath, like right here where your ears are. So this is a really great place. And I'm going to show you some tools this week on how we can improve your vagus nerve and vagal tone so that you can kick into this parasympathetic nervous system, especially like right before you eat or right before you go to bed. If you feel like you're someone that like has that active mind that doesn't ever slow down and you're trying and it's really hard for you to get to sleep or to fall back asleep, this week we're going to talk all about that. I'm going to show you lots of tools to be able to work with that. So, when our nervous system responds and it wants us to move and to activate, it will kick us into that sympathetic nervous system because it wants us to do something to help us survive. What we want when we are and what we want also with our kiddos is we want to be able to move into this ventral vagal state. This is where we feel safe. This is where we engage with others, and this is where we are our most social. We feel safe to do so. When we want to heal, when we want to um, get our kids to regulate with us so that they come out of their emotional states, which from littles all the way to teenagers, they don't have fully developed systems yet. So on both sides, we want to be able to teach our kids to be able to process their emotions and use the logical brain. I talk a lot more about this in Mindset for Motherhood because there's so much more that goes into it. But what we don't want is to see our kids repressing emotions and ignoring them because it's too painful to feel. But what we also don't want is this like, well, to a certain extent, right? Like toddlers are going to have very big emotions because they don't know what they are yet. So we want to learn tools to help them be able to let it go and then learn what they are. And then we can start to teach them tools of what to do with them. But that takes time. Toddlers are kind of a different scenario there. But when we're dealing with older kids and teenagers, we can learn tools to help get them into this ventral vagal state so that their body feels safe. But also, if we are wanting to heal something in our body, if you have any sort of chronic condition, we want to get to this ventral vagal state because this is where our body feels safe to be able to heal. If we want to lose weight, if we want to be able to do all sorts of things, the body has to feel safe to do so. So we're going to talk about that this week. And then also there is this other side, which is the dorsal vagal. This is where we can often feel if you've ever not been able to like leave your bedroom or your bed because you feel like life is too hard. So I think of depression here a lot as like a good example. But it feels like you cannot move. It feels like you just want to go and hide under a rock. This is when your nervous system has basically been under so much stress that it starts to shut down. This is where oftentimes we start to see like adrenals don't even kick in anymore. where they generate cortisol to like get you to move. Like this is where like everything is completely shut down. It's um so the tendency to want to just go hide under a rock or to go, be somewhere else, like it just that's what this response typically is. And so moving out of dorsal vagal into ventral vagal is where we really have to nourish our body and nourish our system and we've got to dig deep, but it may not feel like something you can do right now. So if you are in this place, we're going to talk tomorrow. I'm going to give you some tools to be able to like start the process to getting into ventral vagal. And then as you feel safer to do so, that's when you can start doing some of that deeper work. If you have any questions about any of these things, feel free to drop them in the comments or in the group. I'm going to be here all week answering your questions. And if there are enough questions, we can do a Q&A at the end as well on Friday. So symptoms of emotional repression and dysregulation: easily overwhelmed and overstimulated, feeling burned out, like high stress, often all the time. If you feel overworked, if you feel like you've just got so many roles and so many things to do and like the to-do list just owns you, this right here. If you feel like you ignore your emotions or repress them, or you feel like you don't have any control over your emotions and oftentimes just like douse your kids in like your anxiety or your fear or anger or any of that. Inflammation, immune system repression. If you feel like you get sick often, that can sometimes be a sign of dysregulation. Autoimmune disease, really, really common here. Difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep. GI, digestion symptoms like bloating, constipation, IBS, anxiety, depression, blood sugar imbalances, tension and stress, toxin buildup, hormone imbalances. And actually, like these four are all tied together, or like eczema, hive, psoriasis, all really, really common symptoms of. So as you can see, like there's so many. It's pretty much a lot of the things that happen with the body. And I didn't even talk about here like a bunch of joint issues and pain, um, can all be signs of emotional repression and dysregulation. So how do you know? How would you know if you have nervous system dysregulation, especially if you have any of those things, like literally why you're here, right? So, if you have anything that tests heart rate variability, this is one thing that can be really, really helpful. So, like an Aura ring or a Whoop is like a wearable, or if you have a one of those heart rate monitors that you can wear around your chest. There is an app called Elite HRV that's free that you can use to measure your heart rate variability. And over the course of like a couple of days to a week, you can start to see um, if your nervous system is recovering or not. If you the higher the heart rate variability, that usually means that your nervous system is being able to adapt from stress and recover pretty well. Um, if you see any dips or long-term like trending downward, it can mean that we're under some sort of stress and it's a trend that we are going to want to do something about that. The other way that we can also do this too, there's a couple of others that are kind of fun to play around with, but there's a vagus nerve test, which is where in the mirror in the bathroom you can go ah and watch your uvula and see, which is that thing hanging down in the back of your throat. And then you can see if it deviates to one side or the other, because that can be a sign of dysregulation of your nervous system and of the vagus nerve specifically. And then there's a couple of CO2, carbon dioxide tolerance tests that can show us if we have some nervous system dysregulation or vagus nerve dysfunction. But also, if you identify with someone who doesn't really have very good tools to process your emotions, if you ignore or repress your emotions often, if you've never done anything to release stored stress and stored negative emotions, um, and if you align with any of these symptoms, if any of these are present, then it's likely that we have some nervous system dysregulation going on and potentially even some emotional stuff too. But I've given you a couple of things for you to do here, so you can like press pause on this and try these out. I gave you this bolt test as well as this another CO2 tolerance test. But the bolt test essentially is where you take a normal breath in and a normal breath out, and then you hold your nose from to prevent air from entering your lungs, and you start your timer, and essentially you time the number of seconds until you feel the first desire to breathe. Like, this could be a sensation like you want to swallow, or like you start to feel sort of this like contraction starting to happen. You could feel like maybe it's like your brain's like, oh, I want to breathe. That is then when you stop it. So for some people, it may be very, very, very fast. And your breathing should be calm when you return to breathing again. So if you're noticing that your score is below 10 seconds, that's a sign of pretty low tolerance. Like, there might be some nervous system dysregulation there. 20 to 30 seconds is decent. 40 is ideal, especially for athletes. But for adults across the board, 40 is ideal. And again, this is not how long you can hold the exhale. This is to that first desire to breathe. The CO2 tolerance is a little different, where you take 4 full breaths, you inhale for 3 to 5 seconds, you exhale for 5 to 10. You do that 3 times, and then at the top of the 4th inhale, you start a timer and exhale as slowly as possible for as long as you possibly can. You stop the timer when your air runs out or you need to inhale, and then here's where you wanna look for the results. And, I would love to know, do this, make sure you do this because I want you to log it for now, and then we're gonna retest on Friday. So make sure you do it, and you either if you want the accountability, drop it in the Facebook group. Um, it's a safe space, okay? It's a safe space. Let us know where you're at. If you have symptoms or anything that you feel comfortable with sharing, feel free to do so, but if not, let us know where you're at, or we'll write it down in your journal what was Monday's tolerance. Okay. All right. So, last couple things here. Healing the nervous system does not require burning it all to the ground. I don't know about you, but if you've ever been burned out, it can feel really tempting to want to, um, just like quit your job, or find a new job, or just maybe if you stay home with the kids, then like the burnout will go away. But oftentimes, burnout tends to find its way in, and regardless of where you're at, because it's following your patterns. So also, when it comes to working with the nervous system, and especially with burnout and overwhelm, and any of these sort of like physical conditions of with our health, we don't just want to look at the physical or the mental or the emotional pieces. We also need to start looking at the societal or familial pieces. What's going on with your family? What's going on with how you're interacting with society, and what society has told you what's yours and what's not yours. We also need to look at your connection with yourself. Do you trust yourself? Do you feel in touch with your intuition? Do you feel like you've lost yourself and who you are? And also, what's your connection to your spirituality? Whatever range that looks like for you. All of these pieces are so important, and we need to address each one of them if you are feeling like you're constantly in the cycle of burnout. The physical, the mental, the emotional. We do we hit on every single one of these inside Mindset for Motherhood. We are going to do especially in this course, we're going to talk about some physical things you can do to get out of nervous system dysregulation. We're going to talk about some mental and some emotional things. But if you want to go further, I have some steps that you can take to take the journey forward, to continue healing and to continue starting to connect with who you are again, or starting to sort through what is the external things of what's other people's and what's society's way of I'm acting or doing these things because of what I've been told I should be doing, versus who you actually are and what you want to be doing. Okay, last slide for today. Homework. Okay, So, some tasking for you. Number one, as I've talked about a few times, set your intention for the week. Okay. I would love for you to drop that in the Facebook group because I want you to vote. Tell your brain to put a vote in for yourself of what are you creating this week? And then number two, I want you to create some space, both physically, mentally, emotionally. What do you need? What do you want to let go of? If you need to, use your journal and say, and ask the question, what do I want? What do I need to let go of this week? What do I need to let go of today? Is there a belief coming up? I can't do this. I don't have the time for this. Is there a belief of I don't know if I have what it takes to do this. I don't know if I want to I can't face this. And then also I want you to if there is something that you need to like a drawer you need to clean out or parts of your house where you physically need to remove stuff. If there is like a bag that you have not taken to Goodwill or a box you haven't taken to Goodwill, clean it out. A great way to start is just to start somewhere with like one small place that you've been meaning to clean out some of the stuff, and I want you to physically create space. Now, you don't have to literally go and organize your entire house, but I want you to just take a little bit of time, like even if it's your purse, clean out your purse. That's a good one. Okay. Now, the reason why we want to do this is because when we are, and we do this on a much larger scale inside of Mindset for Motherhood, where we start really closing down some of the tabs where we've been storing negative emotions. And we're going to talk about this later in this week. But we want to create space because what we don't want is if we have a car parked in our garage and we want to up level to a new car, we don't want to take the new car and drive it over top of the old car. That's not gonna be a good thing, right? Because it's just gonna create a whole big mess. So what we wanna do is we wanna take the car out, park it on the street or somewhere else, and then bring that new car in, meaning that we have to create and we have to clear the space of the old patterns so we can create and bring in the new ones. But we can physically set ourselves up for success when we start to create that space around us. So can we clean up some clutter? Can we take the trash out if we need to? Can we finally take a couple of things to Goodwill or anywhere you take things to, even if it like if you can take it to a consignment shop or maybe gift it to another person. Lots of moms have been gifting me a lot of like clothes and things that they are moving on, and it's just so nice to be able to like cycle that around and like it's really helping me. But I'm also looking forward to being able to give it away too on when we're on the flip side of that. The other thing I want you to start thinking of is what's in the gap. So when you set the intention for what you want to create this week, what's in the gap between where you are now and where you want to be with what you want to create? If you want to create more calm, what's in the gap? What's holding you back from creating that calm right now? And if you feel comfortable sharing, please feel free to drop that in the Facebook group. And then I want you to start collecting data over the next day, 2, 3, up like through Wednesday. I want you to start looking at what are your most common triggers? Is it a thought? Is it an emotion? Is it a behavior? Not necessarily yours, but maybe your kids or family members or your spouses or partners. What emotions come up the most for you? Is it anger? Is it fear? Do you find yourself anxious a lot? Do you find yourself feeling a lot of mom guilt or feeling guilty or embarrassed or shameful? Do you find yourself feeling more depressed and sad? What emotions come up the most for you? And where do you feel stuck right now? If you feel stuck, but where do you feel stuck right now? Okay, that is your tasking. Have fun. Make it fun. Have fun with this. and start paying attention to what's coming up for you. A journal is a really good resource to have, and I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to start diving into. I'm going to give you some physical tools to start working with your nervous system to get you into that parasympathetic nervous system. But I wanted to make sure that we are setting our intention and we're letting go of some things that we no longer need to hold on to. Okay, so enjoy. If you have any questions, drop them in the Facebook group. I'll be there, and I will see you all tomorrow. All right, have a great day.